Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship, watching the enemy fleet approach Earth. 47 alien ships moved through space like dark wolves hunting prey. They were big ships, much bigger than anything humans had. Each one could destroy a city with a single shot. The aliens called themselves the Zephyrian Empire. They ruled over 200 star systems across the galaxy. To them, Earth was just another small world to conquer. They had sent Admiral Kextar with his third fleet to make humans surrender without a fight. Jake looked at his small fleet of 12 ships floating around Earth. They were good ships, but they were nothing compared to what was coming. His crew worked at their stations, preparing for a battle they probably could not win. But Jake would not give up. This was his home. This was where his wife and 2 children lived in Denver. Lieutenant Lisa Carter sat at the communications station on the lunar defense base. She watched the alien ships get closer on her screen. Her hands moved over the controls, making sure all Earth's defenses were ready. The moon had big guns that could hurt the alien ships, but not enough to stop them all. The Zephyrian fleet stopped, just outside Earth's orbit. Admiral Kextar's voice came over all the radio channels. His words were cold and harsh through the translation device. "Humans of Earth," the alien said, "you have 1 hour to surrender. Give up now, and some of you will live as workers for the Empire. Fight us, and we will destroy your cities, one by one." Jake picked up his radio. "This is Captain Morrison of the Earth Defense Force. We will never surrender to you. If you want our world, you will have to take it." The alien admiral laughed. "So be it. Begin the attack." The battle started with fire and lightning in the dark of space. The Zephyrian ships shot beams of energy that could cut through metal like paper. Earth's ships fired back with everything they had. Nuclear missiles flew between the fleets like angry stars. Jake's ship, the UES Defiant, moved fast between the alien vessels. His crew fired the main guns again and again. They hit one of the smaller alien ships and watched it explode in a ball of fire. But for every alien ship they hurt, the humans lost 2 of their own. The lunar defense guns opened fire. Beams of pure energy reached across space and hit the alien ships. One of the big alien vessels started to burn and fall toward Earth, but there were too many others. The aliens began shooting at the moon itself. Lisa watched her screens with growing fear. Half of the lunar guns were already destroyed. Earth's small fleet was being torn apart. She could see the alien ships moving closer to Earth, ready to attack the cities below. On Earth, people looked up at the night sky and saw the battle. Flashes of light marked where ships died. Parents held their children close. Soldiers prepared to fight on the ground. Everyone knew that humanity's time was running out. Jake's ship took a direct hit. The bridge filled with smoke and sparks. Half his crew was hurt or dead, but he kept fighting. He had to protect Earth. He had to protect his family. "Sir," one of his officers called out, "the aliens are targeting the cities. They're about to fire on Denver." Jake's heart stopped. His wife Sarah and his children were in Denver. He tried to turn his ship to stop the attack, but he was too far away. He could only watch as the alien beam reached down from space like the finger of death. The city of Denver disappeared in a ball of fire. Then came Los Angeles, then New York. The aliens were keeping their promise. They were destroying Earth's cities one by one. But something strange happened then. Even as Earth burned, even as the human fleet died in space, every human ship began sending the same message. It went out on all radio frequencies, reaching far beyond Earth's solar system. Lisa heard the message from her damaged station on the moon. The words were simple, but they made her heart race with hope she didn't understand. "Earth has fallen. All fleets converge. Show them what humanity truly is." Admiral Kextar stood on his command ship and watched Earth burn. This had been easier than he thought. The humans had fought well for such a weak species, but they were finished now. His officers cheered as the last human ship exploded. "Sir?" his sensor officer said suddenly. "I'm reading strange signals from the edge of the system." "What kind of signals?" the admiral asked. "Jump signatures, sir. Something big is coming through hyperspace." The admiral looked at his screens. At first he saw nothing. Then space itself began to bend and twist. Light gathered in points that grew bigger and brighter. The first human reinforcement ship came through the jump point like a silver arrow. Then came another, then 10 more, then 100. Jake Morrison's damaged ship was still alive. He smiled through the blood on his face as he watched the new ships arrive. These were not like Earth's small defense fleet. These ships were huge. These ships were built for war. "This is Captain Ben Rodriguez of the Terran Colonial Defense Force," a voice came over the radio. "Sorry, we're late to the party, Admiral." Kekstar stared at his screens in confusion. Where had these ships come from? His intelligence reports said humans only lived on Earth. There were supposed to be no other human worlds. More ships kept arriving. The space around Earth filled with human vessels of every size and shape. Some were as big as space stations. Others moved fast, like fighter jets. All of them had weapons pointed at the Zephyrian fleet. "How many ships are there?" Admiral Kex asked his sensor officer. The officer's hands shook as he worked his controls. I cannot count them all, sir. At least several thousand, maybe more." Jake laughed despite his pain. The aliens had made a big mistake. They thought they were attacking a single weak world. Instead, they had just woken up something that had been sleeping in the dark between the stars. The real fight was about to begin. Admiral Kekstar watched the human ships fill the space around Earth. His confident smile was gone. His officers stood quietly at their stations, afraid to speak. The humans were supposed to be weak. They were supposed to have only a few small ships. But now thousands of human vessels surrounded his fleet. "Commander." Ben Rodriguez's ship moved close to the alien flagship. His vessel was 3 times bigger than anything the aliens had seen from humans before. Its hull was black metal covered in weapon ports. This was not a ship built for exploration. This was a ship built to kill. "Admito." Kekstar Ben's voice came over the radio. "You and your fleet are now prisoners of the Terran Colonial Defense Force. Surrender your weapons and prepare to be boarded." The alien admiral's face turned purple with rage. "Impossible. Humans only live on Earth. Our scouts confirmed this." Ben laughed. "Your scouts saw what we wanted them to see. You have made a very big mistake, alien." On the lunar station, Lisa Carter watched everything happen on her screens. She had always known there were human colonies beyond Earth, but she had never imagined. There were so many ships. Where had they all come from? Dr. Amy Phillips floated in zero gravity aboard her research ship near the edge of the system. She had been studying alien civilizations for 20 years. As the head scientist at the Centauri Research Institute, she knew things that most people did not. She knew why the aliens had made such a terrible error. Amy activated her communication system and spoke to Admiral Kekstar directly. "Admiral, my name is Dr. Phillips. I study how different species behave in space. Would you like to know why you failed so badly?" The alien admiral's image appeared on Amy's screen. His eyes were full of confusion and fear. You are just scientists and farmers. How do you have so many warships?" Amy smiled. "That's exactly the mistake your species always makes. You think that being loud and aggressive makes you strong. You build big empires and tell everyone how powerful you are. Humans learned long ago that this is not the smart way." She brought up a holographic map of the galaxy. Red dots showed the Zephyrian Empire's worlds. They were clustered together in one part of space, easy to see and count. Blue dots showed human colonies. They were scattered everywhere, hidden in dark nebulas and empty systems that other species ignored. 300 years ago, humans left Earth, Amy continued. But We did not build an empire like yours. We built something much better. We built a network. The alien admiral stared at the map. Human colonies were everywhere. Some were in systems so remote that no alien had ever visited them. Others were hidden in asteroid fields or gas giant moons. There were human settlements in places where other species thought nothing could live. Every human colony is independent, Amy explained. Each one can build its own ships, grow its own food, and defend itself. When you attacked Earth, you did not attack one world. You attacked the heart of a civilization that spreads across half the galaxy. Ben Rodriguez listened to Amy's explanation while his ships surrounded the alien fleet. He knew the truth because he had lived it. His own ship had been built in the secret shipyards orbiting Proxima Centauri. His crew came from dozens of different human worlds. The Zephyrian Empire has 200 star systems, Ben told the alien admiral. Humans have settlements in over 1,000 systems. We just never told anyone about most of them, Captain. Steve Walsh arrived with another wave of ships from the Kepler colonies. His vessels were different from Ben's warships. They were built for long-range exploration, but they carried enough weapons to destroy small moons. Steve had been exploring the far edge of the galaxy when he received the call that Earth was under attack. Every human world heard the message. Steve explained to the confused aliens, Earth is our mother world. When someone attacks our mother, all of her children come to help. More ships kept arriving through jump points all around the solar system. Captain Danny Richards brought the mining fleets from the Vega system. These ships were huge and slow, built to crack open asteroids and extract metals. But Danny's people had mounted massive guns on them. They looked like flying fortresses. General Patricia Moore arrived with the Colonial Marine Expeditionary Force. Her ships were fast and deadly, designed to carry soldiers to any battle in the galaxy. Patricia had been fighting pirates in the Outer Rim when the call came. She had immediately gathered every ship she could find and raced toward Earth. Admiral Chris Thompson commanded the Deep Space Reconnaissance Corps. His ships were almost invisible, built to spy on alien civilizations without being seen. For decades, Chris and his people had been watching the galaxy's empires, learning their weaknesses, preparing for the day when humans might need to fight. The alien admiral looked at his sensor readings with growing horror. Human ships were still arriving. They came from directions his maps said were empty space. They came from nebulas where his people thought nothing could live. They came from the dark places between the stars where other species feared to go. How many ships do you have? Admiral Kekstar asked in a whisper. Fleet Admiral Kevin Turner arrived with the last wave of vessels from the Outer Rim Defense Alliance. His ship was so big it blocked out the sun when it passed between Earth and the alien fleet. Kevin had traveled further from Earth than any other human, exploring galaxies beyond the Milky Way. Even he had come when Earth called. Kevin's voice was calm and cold. When he answered the alien's question, we have enough ships to darken the sky above every world in your empire. We have enough ships to make your people forget what stars look like. Lieutenant Colonel Nancy Foster worked on her command ship, coordinating the arriving fleets. She had the hardest job of all, keeping track of almost 1 million human vessels. Ships arrived from places that did not appear on any galactic map. They came from hidden worlds where humans had lived in secret for centuries. Nancy looked at her screens and saw the final count. 900,000 ships. Some were tiny fighters. Others were massive dreadnoughts that could destroy planets. All of them were ready to fight for Earth. The alien admiral finally understood what his empire had done. They had not attacked the weak species that lived on one world. They had attacked a civilization that had quietly spread across the galaxy like seeds on the wind. They had awakened something that had been content to remain hidden in the shadows. We did not know, Admiral Kekstar said quietly. Our intelligence was wrong. We thought humans were weak. Ben Rodriguez moved his ship even closer to the alien flagship. Humans are not weak. We are patient. We are careful. We learned long ago that the smart hunter waits for the right moment to strike. Amy Phillips made one final point that made the alien admiral's blood run cold. Admiral, your empire controls 200 worlds with 50 million ships. But you just learned that humans have been living quietly in the galaxy for 3 centuries. How many other species do you think are out there, watching you, waiting for you to make a mistake? The alien admiral looked out at the sea of human ships surrounding his fleet. For the first time in his life, he wondered how many other civilizations were hiding in the dark, pretending to be weak while growing strong in secret. The galaxy was much more dangerous than anyone had imagined. Captain Steve Walsh stood on the bridge of his flagship and watched the greatest fleet in galactic history form around Earth. His ships from the Proxima Centauri system were just the beginning. More human vessels kept arriving through jump points that appeared like doorways in space. Steve commanded the first Terra Defense Fleet. 50,000 ships followed his orders. These were not the small patrol boats that had defended Earth. These were true warships, built in secret shipyards that orbited distant suns. Each ship was bigger and more powerful than anything the Zephyrians had ever seen. Captain Walsh, his communications officer, called out, "General Moore's fleet is jumping in now." Steve watched as space twisted and bent. Light gathered into bright points that grew larger and larger. Then the Colonial Marine Expeditionary Force burst through hyperspace like a school of silver fish. General Patricia Moore brought 30,000 ships, designed to carry soldiers to any battle in the galaxy. Patricia's voice came over the radio. "Steve, good to see you again. How many aliens do we need to arrest today?" Steve smiled. He had known Patricia since they were both young officers exploring the Outer Rim. "Just 47 ships, Pat. But I think they're starting to understand. They made a big mistake." Admiral Kekstar watched from his command ship as more human fleets arrived. His sensor officer had stopped trying to count the ships. There were too many. They came from every direction, filling space around Earth like a metal cloud. "Sir," the sensor officer said in a shaking voice, "another fleet is jumping in. This one is even bigger." Admiral Chris Thompson arrived with the Deep Space Reconnaissance Corps. His ships were built for stealth and speed. They had been watching alien civilizations for decades, learning their secrets, preparing for this day. Chris brought 40,000 vessels that could appear and disappear like ghosts. Behind Chris came Fleet Admiral Kevin Turner with the Outer Rim Defense Alliance. Kevin's ships were the strangest of all. They had been built to explore beyond the galaxy itself. Some used technologies that other species had never seen. Kevin had traveled further from Earth than any human alive, but he had still come when his home world, called Lieutenant Colonel Nancy Foster, worked frantically on her command ship, trying to organize the growing fleet. Her job was to make sure all these ships could work together. It was like trying to conduct an orchestra with 1,000,000 musicians. Colonel Foster, her assistant, said, "We have ships arriving from sectors that aren't even on our star charts." Nancy looked at her screens and saw the truth. Human civilization was bigger than anyone had imagined. Ships came from hidden research stations in dark nebulas. They came from mining colonies in empty systems. They came from places so far away that their radio signals took years to reach. Earth. Captain Danny Richards arrived with converted mining ships from the Vega system. These vessels were huge and slow, but Danny's people had mounted the biggest guns they could find on them. The mining ships looked like flying mountains covered in weapons. "Danny," Steve called over the radio, "how many ships did you bring?" 60,000, Danny replied. "Every miner, hauler, and processing ship in the Vega colonies. We welded guns to everything that could fly." More fleets kept coming. The Kepler colonies sent their research vessels, modified with experimental weapons. The Tau Ceti settlements brought their cargo ships, converted into troop transports. The Wolf 359 system sent their patrol boats, upgraded with new shield generators. Admiral Kekstar realized that the humans had been planning for this day for centuries. Every ship in their scattered civilization had been designed to become a weapon, if needed. Cargo haulers became assault ships. Research vessels became spy boats. Mining equipment became siege weapons. How is this possible? The alien admiral asked his officers. How can they have so many ships? His tactical officer studied the human fleet with growing fear. Sir, I think each human colony builds its own ships. They don't depend on a central shipyard like we do. Every world in their network can produce warships. Captain Michelle Gray arrived with the Earth's defense reserves. These were the newest ships, fresh from the hidden shipyards in the asteroid belt. Michelle had been born on Earth, but her ships were built with technology from 100 different human worlds. The alien prisoners watched through the windows of their ships as the human fleet continued to grow. Some of the human vessels were bigger than space stations. Others were small and fast like fighter planes. All of them carried weapons that could destroy cities. Dr. Frank Williams arrived with the science fleet from the Centauri Research Institute. His ships looked peaceful, but they carried the most advanced weapons in human space. Frank's people had been studying alien technology for decades, learning how to defeat every known species in the galaxy. Dr. Williams, Nancy called over the radio. What's your ship count? 75,000 vessels, Frank replied. We've been building experimental warships, disguised as research stations. The aliens never suspected a thing. Admiral Paul Jackson brought the final wave of ships from the farthest human colonies. His vessels had traveled for weeks to reach Earth, coming from the very edge of known space. Paul commanded settlements that other humans thought were just legends. The count kept growing. 800,000 ships. 850,000. 900,000. Nancy could barely believe the numbers on her screens. Captain Tony Clark arrived with ships that had no official names or numbers. His fleet was made up of vessels that didn't officially exist. For decades, Tony's people had been building ships, in secret, preparing for the day when humanity might need to reveal its true strength. That's it, Nancy announced to the fleet commanders. Final count, 900,000 ships of all classes. The silence that followed was deafening. Even the humans couldn't believe what they had assembled. They had built the largest fleet in galactic history without anyone noticing. Admiral Kekstar stared at his screens in complete shock. His empire's entire navy was 50 million ships spread across 200 worlds. The humans had gathered almost 1 million ships just to defend one planet. How many more ships did they have scattered across their hidden colonies? Captain Jake Morrison's damaged ship was still alive in the middle of the growing fleet. His crew had been rescued, his wounds treated, but he stayed on his bridge to watch history being made. The aliens had killed his family, but now they would face justice. All fleet commanders, Jake announced over the radio. Earth's children have come home. The aliens wanted to see what humans could do. Let's show them. The 900,000 ships moved into formation around Earth like a metal storm. Some formed defensive lines around the planet. Others surrounded the alien fleet. The rest spread out through the solar system, making sure no alien ship could escape. Admiral Kekstar finally understood the truth. Humans had not been weak. They had been patient. They had spent 3 centuries spreading across the galaxy in secret, building ships, preparing for war. The Zephyrian Empire had not attacked a primitive species. They had attacked the most dangerous civilization in known space. Send a message to the Zephyrian Empire, Admiral Kekstar told his communications officer. Tell them we need help. Tell them the humans are not what we thought they were, but it was too late. The human fleet was already moving. 900,000 ships began advancing on the 47 alien vessels, like a silver tide. The real battle was about to begin, and the aliens were completely outnumbered. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when humanity stopped pretending to be weak. News of the human fleet traveled across the galaxy faster than light itself. On every alien world, on every space station, in every corner of known space, beings stared at their communication screens in disbelief. The species that no one had heard of just weeks ago had assembled the largest military force in galactic history. The Galactic Trade Federation held an emergency meeting on their headquarters. Stationed above Rigel Prime, Admiral Zek, leader of 12 different species, watched the recordings of human ships filling the space around Earth. His forearms shook as he counted the vessels on his screen. How did we miss this? He asked his intelligence officers. How did an entire civilization grow under our noses without anyone noticing? Chief Intelligence Officer Morth, a spider-like creature from the Vega colonies, studied the data with his 8 eyes. Sir, our records show humans have been trading with us for decades, but they used fake names and shell companies. We never realized all these different traders were the same species. The Stellar Alliance, the second most powerful group in the galaxy, called their own emergency session. Their leaders gathered in a virtual meeting from across 50 star systems. Fleet Commander Yulta looked at intelligence reports that painted a terrifying picture. The rare quantum crystals from the Kepler sector, she said to the assembled leaders. The exotic matter from the Andromeda research zones. The advanced computer chips from the Outer Rim. All of it came from human colonies. We've been buying their products for centuries without knowing it. Meanwhile, Ambassador Linda Price arrived at the Galactic Council aboard a ship that made every other vessel look like a toy. Her ship, the UES Dominion, was 10 kilometers long and covered in weapons that could destroy small moons. Linda had been chosen as humanity's first official representative to the galaxy. The council chambers had never seen a human before. Delegates from hundreds of species watched in silence as Linda entered the Great Hall. She was small compared to many of the aliens, but the power of her civilization stood behind her like a giant shadow. Honored delegates, Linda began in perfect galactic standard. I am Ambassador Price, representing the Terran Federation and its associated colonies. We come to you today not as conquerors, but as neighbors who can no longer remain hidden. The council chamber erupted in angry voices and confused questions. The delegate, from the hegemony of worlds, a massive reptilian creature, stood up and pointed one of his claws at Linda. Humans were unknown to us until this day, he hissed. Now you claim to control hundreds of worlds. This is impossible. Linda smiled calmly and activated a holographic display. The galaxy appeared above the council floor, showing trade routes, shipping lanes, and economic data. Blue markers appeared everywhere, showing human involvement in galactic commerce. Delegate Corvash, Linda said to the reptilian alien, your people import 70% of their rare metals from what you call the Kepler Mining Consortium. That consortium is owned and operated by human colonists. We've been selling you materials for 60 years. The economic implications hit the galaxy like a shockwave. Rebecca Adams, Chief Financial Officer of the Terran Federation, released a report that changed everything. Humans controlled or influenced 30% of all galactic trade. They owned mining operations in dozens of systems. They operated research stations that had made breakthrough discoveries in physics and medicine. On Earth, President Carlos Martinez addressed the galaxy from the bridge of another massive human warship. His message was broadcast to every alien world and space station. Carlos was an old man with gray hair, but his voice was strong and clear. People of the galaxy, he said. Humanity has lived quietly among you for 3 centuries. We built our homes in the dark places where others feared to go. We traded with you fairly and honestly, even when you didn't know who we were. We wanted nothing more than to live in peace. The president's image showed the burned cities of Earth behind him. Denver, Los Angeles, New York, all destroyed by alien weapons. But when the Zephyrian Empire attacked our homeworld and killed our people, they forced us to reveal ourselves. The age of hiding is over. The galaxy's major powers realized they faced a completely new situation. Dr. Tony Williams, head of Human Galactic Relations, established the first official human embassies across known space. Species that had never heard of humans suddenly found human diplomats arriving at their worlds. The military implications were even more frightening. Admiral Paul Jackson, commander of the Outer Colonies Defense Force, released tactical information that made alien military leaders lose sleep. Humans had been building warships for centuries. Their technology was different from anything else in the galaxy, developed in secret research stations that no one knew existed. Every human colony can defend itself, Admiral Jackson explained, to a gathering of alien military officers. Every human world has its own shipyards, its own weapons, its own trained soldiers. When you attack one human world, you attack all of them. Captain Michelle Gray took command of Earth's new public shipyards. For the first time in human history, they would build ships where everyone could see them. The massive construction platforms appeared in Earth's orbit, like metal flowers blooming in space. These shipyards will build 1,000 new vessels every year, Michelle announced. We want the galaxy to know that humanity is no longer hiding. The social changes were just as dramatic. Dr. Frank Williams opened the first human universities, where alien students could learn about human science and culture. Species that had never seen a human before suddenly found themselves studying alongside the descendants of Earth, trade routes that had been controlled by the same empires for thousands of years. Suddenly faced competition from human merchant fleets. Captain Steve Walsh, now in charge of human commercial operations, offered better prices and faster delivery than the old established companies. We've been watching how galactic trade works for centuries, Steve explained to alien business leaders. We know where the inefficiencies are. We know how to do things better. The Zephyrian Empire, meanwhile, faced complete collapse. Emperor Zextal himself traveled to Earth to negotiate. The proud ruler who had never visited another species' homeworld now found himself begging for mercy from the humans he had tried to conquer. Vice Admiral Tony Clark oversaw the war crimes trials. The Zephyrians who had attacked Earth would face justice, but Tony made sure the trials were fair. He wanted the galaxy to see that humans could be merciful even when they had been wronged. We could destroy your empire, Tony told Emperor Zextal. Our fleet is large enough to attack all your worlds at once, but we choose not to. We choose to show mercy, because that is who we are. The Emperor, a proud being who had ruled for 50 years, found himself crying in front of the human admiral. Why? He asked. Why do you spare us when we murdered your people? Tony looked out at Earth, still recovering from the alien attack. Because revenge is easy. Justice is hard. We choose the hard path because it's the right path. The balance of power in the galaxy shifted overnight. The Galactic Trade Federation, the Stellar Alliance, and the hegemony of worlds all found themselves dealing with a new superpower that had appeared from nowhere. Humans were no longer the unknown species that lived on one small world. They were now one of the most powerful civilizations in known space. But the biggest change was psychological. Every species in the galaxy now wondered the same thing. If humans could hide their true strength for 3 centuries, what other civilizations were out there, watching and waiting in the darkness between the stars? The galaxy had learned that sometimes the quiet neighbors were the ones you needed to fear most, and humanity, after centuries of hiding, was finally ready to take its place among the stars. 6 months after the Great Fleet had assembled around Earth, the galaxy looked completely different. The Zephyrian Empire, once proud rulers of 200 worlds, had fallen to pieces. Emperor Zextal sat in a prison cell on Earth, waiting for his trial. His empire was broken, his fleets scattered, his people looking for new leaders. But the Emperor's fate was not the biggest change. The biggest change was that humanity now stood as equals among the galaxy's great powers. The species that had been unknown just months before now, had a voice in every major decision that affected the stars. Admiral Kextar, the Zephyrian commander who had attacked Earth, found himself in a strange position. Instead of being executed as a war criminal, he was working with human investigators to understand how the attack had happened. Vice Admiral Tony Clark had offered him a choice: help find the truth, or spend the rest of his life in prison. Still don't understand, Kextar told Tony, as they reviewed the evidence. How did your people hide so well for so long? Tony smiled as he looked through reports from hundreds of human colonies. We learned from watching other species make mistakes. Every time an empire got too big and too loud, it eventually collapsed. We decided to grow quietly instead. The War Crimes Tribunal was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Judge Patricia Moore, a former general who now wore the robes of justice, made sure every trial was fair and open. Aliens from across the galaxy watched as humans showed mercy to their enemies. The Zephyrians, who ordered the attack on our cities, will face punishment, Judge Moore announced. But the soldiers who just followed orders will be allowed to return home. We believe in justice, not revenge. Captain Michelle Gray stood in the command center of humanity's new public shipyards above Earth. Through the windows, she could see construction platforms building ships that would be known throughout the galaxy. No more hiding. No more pretending to be weak. We're building a new class of exploration ships, Michelle explained to alien reporters who were visiting Earth for the first time. They'll be used to make contact with species we haven't met yet. We want to meet our neighbors as friends, not as conquerors. Dr. Frank Williams opened the first human galactic university on the moon. Students from dozens of species came to learn about human science, human culture, and human history. For many aliens, it was their first chance to understand how humans thought and lived. The secret to human success, Frank told his mixed class of human and alien students, is that we never stop learning. We watch other species. We study their successes and their failures. We adapt and improve. A young alien student, a blue-skinned creature from the Rigel system, raised her hand. Professor Williams, why did humans choose to hide for so long? Why didn't you want to be famous like other powerful species? Frank smiled at the question. Because we learned that being feared is not the same as being respected. We wanted other species to judge us by our actions, not by how many ships we had. President Carlos Martinez worked from his new office in the rebuilt city of Denver. The alien attack had destroyed much of the city, but humans had rebuilt it bigger and better than before. The new Denver was a symbol of human strength and determination. We're not interested in building an empire like the old powers, Carlos explained to Ambassador Linda Price during one of their daily meetings. We want to build partnerships. We want to work with other species to make the galaxy a better place for everyone. Linda nodded as she prepared for another diplomatic meeting. As humanity's chief ambassador, she spent her days talking with leaders from across the galaxy. The other species are still adjusting to us, she said. Some are afraid. Some are curious. Some want to be our allies. Captain Danny Richards commanded the New Earth Defense Force. The massive fleet that had assembled to protect Earth was slowly returning to their home colonies. But Danny made sure Earth would never be defenseless again. His ships patrolled the solar system, ready to protect humanity's homeworld. We learned an important lesson, Danny told his officers during a training exercise. Peace is good, but you have to be ready to fight for it. The galaxy is full of species that respect strength more than kindness. The economic changes were just as dramatic as the military ones. Captain Steve Walsh, now in charge of human trade operations, negotiated new deals with alien governments and companies. Human products that had been sold in secret for centuries were now openly marketed across the galaxy. Human quantum computers from the Kepler colonies, Steve announced at a trade conference. Human medical supplies from the Vega research stations. Human rare metals from the Outer Rim mining operations. All available for fair and honest trade. The alien business leaders at the conference looked uncomfortable. They had been buying these same products for decades without knowing they came from humans. Now they had to compete with the species that had been their secret suppliers all along. General Patricia Moore, when she wasn't serving as a judge, worked on building new alliances between humans and friendly alien species. The Rigel Federation wanted to sign a defense treaty. The Centauri Republic offered to share their medical technology. Even some former enemies wanted to make peace. The galaxy is changing, Patricia told her staff. Species that have been fighting each other for thousands of years are now working together. They're afraid that if they don't cooperate, some hidden civilization like ours might replace them all. Admiral Paul Jackson oversaw the return of the Great Fleet to their home colonies. 900,000 ships slowly dispersed across the galaxy, returning to the hidden worlds where they had been built. But everyone knew they could be called back together if humanity was threatened again. The fleet will always be ready, Paul promised in his final report. Every human colony knows that Earth is our mother world. If anyone attacks Earth again, they will face all of humanity united. Dr. Amy Phillips continued her research into galactic civilizations, but now she had official support from alien governments. Her studies of how species rose and fell had helped humanity avoid the mistakes of past empires. We're entering a new age, Amy wrote in her latest report. The old way of building empires through conquest and fear is ending. The future belongs to species that can cooperate and adapt. On his damaged ship, Captain Jake Morrison watched Earth heal from the alien attack. His family was gone, killed, in the bombing of Denver, but he found comfort in knowing their sacrifice had not been in vain. Humanity had revealed itself to the galaxy and emerged stronger than ever. Sarah would be proud, Jake said to himself as he looked at the rebuilt city below. She always said humans were at their best when they helped each other. The Galactic Council formally recognized the Terran Federation as a major power. Ambassador Linda Price took her seat among the great leaders of the galaxy. The chamber that had never seen a human before now hosted one as an equal member. We come not as conquerors, but as partners, Linda said in her first official speech to the council. Humanity offers its friendship to all species that choose peace over war, cooperation over conquest. The galaxy's old powers, the Trade Federation, the Stellar Alliance. The hegemony of worlds found themselves working with humanity on problems that had seemed impossible to solve. Human technology helped clean polluted worlds. Human medicine cured diseases that had plagued alien species for centuries. Human diplomats helped end wars that had lasted for generations. But perhaps the most important change was the psychological one. Every species in the galaxy now knew that appearances could be deceiving. If humans could hide their true strength for 3 centuries, what other civilizations might be watching from the shadows? The quiet neighbors had become the most powerful force in known space, and the galaxy would never be the same as the first year of humanity's public existence came to an end. President Martinez stood before the rebuilt Earth and spoke to both humans and aliens across the galaxy. We have shown that it is possible to be strong without being cruel, he said. We have proven that you can protect your people without destroying others. This is the path forward for all of us. This is how we build a better galaxy. The age of hidden humanity was over. The age of cooperation had begun, and among the stars, other unknown civilizations watched and wondered if it was time for them to step out of the shadows too.